My name is Professor Ernesto Lee from Broward College. At the college, I teach data analytics and data science classes, mostly machine learning. I'm also the lead researcher at the Florida Center for Advanced Analytics and Data Science. There, I focus on machine learning, deep learning, and data ethics issues. With that said, I want to start with, let me say, an observation. I want you to notice that in social media, everywhere in social media where there's a way in which a small move in a direction can be shown to lead to another big boogeyman, and that boogeyman makes us angry, I want you to notice that social media, the algorithms, are amplifying the meaning of everything to its worst possible conclusion. For instance, we'll say something like, a small move by the government to do X might be seen as the first step in this total and complete thing. For instance, if you say, I want to provide a child tax credit to working families, the algorithm will automatically move that to, you're a socialist. If you say that I am concerned about crime, then the algorithm automatically puts you in the camp of you're a fascist or you're a racist or something like that. Just notice the way that the social media algorithms amplify the degree to which we all get kind of triggered by almost anything that's posted. Now, if you leave this untreated, this becomes a threat to democracy at large. And what I would encourage you to do is I would encourage you to look at what China is doing with respect to its internet, because China is seeing these exact same real problems. Now, I'll be the first to admit that we might not like their solution. I don't like their solution. We might want to implement a solution that has more civil liberties built into it. But let me just explain what China is doing, and also to a certain extent what Russia is doing with respect to data and the algorithms that are fed this data. So it's as if Xi Jinping, the leader of China, saw that movie, The Social Dilemma. Because in, I guess it was the past year, 2020, 2021, somewhere around there, China and the Chinese government, I should say, they rolled out a bunch of sweeping legislative reforms that included things like, if you are below the age of 14 years old and you use their version of social media, TikTok, let's say, when you swipe the videos, instead of getting some goofy influencer dancing, or some stupid joke or whatever, or soft pornography or something like that, what the Chinese, they're legislating in their social media, when you swipe, instead of getting that, what you get is you get science experiments that you can do at home. You get museum exhibits. You get Chinese patriotism videos. So you're scrolling and you're getting stuff that's educational. Because again, even if you don't agree, you can see where they're going with this. They want their kids to grow up and want to be astronauts and scientists. They do not want their children to grow up and be social media influencers. Now, just to be clear, I am not praising that model. I'm just calling your attention to it. The things that they're doing well, I'll praise, and this is one of them. They are aware that the internet in general, and social media in particular, can influence people. So that's a great way to do it, to influence people. I had an opportunity to speak with a Chinese citizen, and we talked about this once. And his posture was, there's really no difference between the government putting in patriotism videos and in the US, the children being asked to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm still kind of chewing on that. The Chinese government, they also limit social media. Again, this is children 14 and under. They limit social media to 40 minutes per day, 40 minutes per day. But not only do they limit it, how they limit social media, it's also interesting. And let me give you a concrete example. So let's say that you're 14 years or younger. So you have 40 minutes a day for TikTok, let's say. You scroll through a few videos, and they actually do a mandatory 5-second delay in between videos. And in between these videos, there's a message that pops up and says, hey, do you want to get up and go do something else? Because when people sit there and they infinitely scroll, they become addicted. The same dopamines that are present in your brain that comes from heroin and cocaine, they're being triggered. Even the CEO of Apple, Tim Cook, he recently said that mindless scrolling is just something we don't want people doing. We don't want people mindlessly scrolling. I think that's almost a direct quote from Tim Cook. So in China, after you scroll a few videos, it does a mandatory 5-second count. In addition, they also have opening hours and closing hours. So from 10 p.m. until 6 a.m., 6 in the morning, if you're under 14, social media is closed. Meaning, one of the problems of social media for teenagers is if I'm not on at 1 in the morning, but all of my friends are on at 1 in the morning, then they're still commenting on my stuff. And so I feel the social pressure. Therefore, I'm going to be the one that's going to be left out of the group. I'm going to be the one that's ostracized if I don't participate. And if your notifications are on, your phone just keeps buzzing. And even if your notifications are not on, you're still going to want to know what's being said about something that you posted. By the way, side note, I disabled all of the alerts and notices on my phone in 2020 and I couldn't be happier. But anyway, so social media effectively becomes an addiction. Social media becomes a trap, especially for young people. The Chinese and the Russians, they're aware of this. And they're trying to do something about it. I'm not saying it's the right thing, but I'm saying that they're aware and they're trying to do something about it. They feel if I don't participate, the other guys will lose out. And Facebook and these companies, they know that, by the way. Netflix said that their biggest competitor is sleep. So just remember, they are all competing for your attention. So when you do this mandatory thing, when you say to 14 and younger in China, we're going to close social media from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., suddenly, at least according to the theory, that's going to bring about some societal change. And they're hoping it's going to bring about societal change for the better. But think about if you're not in the same time zone. That's another kind of important side effect. Because if you're not in the same time zone, this means that people cannot use social media at the same time. That's just an interesting side note. In the summer of 2021, I had the honor of teaching at a very prestigious Chinese university. I taught programming there. And to my surprise, all of the students in my Python programming class were in the Chinese military. I asked them to get on the internet, on their phones, and they all told me that they could not do that. And apparently, when you're a member of the Chinese PLA, the People Liberation Army, you get a locked down smartphone. It's like a light phone. It's a smartphone that's extremely locked down. You basically can't do anything with it. And by contrast, we know that Russia and China, they go into our veterans group, for instance, on Facebook, and they actually go out of their way to spread misinformation, disinformation. They try to radicalize veterans. They'll say things like, hey, Afghanistan happened. Aren't you really upset about what Biden did or what Trump did? Let me show you 10 videos that shows you why you should be upset about that. This is being fed to people with potential scars and wounds from the war and dumping more mental health problems onto them. And at the same time, what that's doing is that's weakening the U.S. military. The strength of a family, like the strength of an army, is defined by their loyalty to each other. And they're using social media to break the bonds of trust and loyalty. In a lot of different ways, we see specifically if you want to drive a country to a civil war, then what you do is you do just like what happened in Russia. You turn the people in that country against themselves. You take the people who have real tactical capability and you radicalize those people. You target those groups in particular. And you can see that makes sense now why the Chinese military and the Russian military do not allow their soldiers to carry smartphones that can access social media, because they are attempting to radicalize the Americans and they don't want that same tactic applied on them. At the same time, the American government, we're spending all this money building physical borders. We're building walls. Or spending $50 billion a year on passport controls with the Department of Homeland Security and other physical controls, like, let's say if Russia tried to fly a plane into the United States, we're going to spend billions on Patriot missiles to shoot down those planes. We spend all of this money on physical controls, but what about information controls? Instead of Russia or China trying to fly a plane into the United States, what if they try to fly an information bomb? An information bomb like a precision-guided missile directly into America. Now, if they tried to fly a physical plane, we would attempt to shoot them right out of the sky with Patriot missiles. But if Russia or China, if they attempt to fly an information bomb into our country, we respond with a white glove Facebook algorithm that will tell you which zip code or which Facebook group they should target. Social media changes the asymmetries. And when I say social media, I mean the data that is put into the social media platforms and the algorithms that use that data. In the United States, what made the United States powerful was its geography. In the United States, we have these huge oceans. The two largest oceans in the world we have on both sides of us, and we have buffer nations in Canada and Mexico above and below us. We occupy a very unique place in the world, which is the reason why it was always very difficult for America and Russia, for instance, to see eye to eye. America never had to contend with European aggression on its borders over and over and over again. America never dealt with that. But when you move to the digital world, it erases that geographic asymmetry of power. When you go to the digital world, it doesn't matter where the oceans are. So what that means is that data and data-centric thinking, if not handled appropriately, becomes a national security threat. And this is much bigger than just something like, hey, social media is adding some mental pollution in the form of mental health, or hey, social media is adding a bit of polarization in the United States, but we'll still get things done. The data that's being fed into the social media algorithms, it is an imminent national security threat to the continuity of our model of governance, which I think we want to keep. It is a direct threat to democracy. Think about this. Who is more affected by these problems that I just laid out? Democracies or authoritarian nations? Social media's business model is showing each tribe their monster, their worst fear. Showing each tribe their extreme reality. If you're a Republican, the social media algorithms are designed to show you liberals or Democrats as monsters, and vice versa. If you're a Democrat, the algorithms are designed to show Republicans as monsters. The algorithms are defined to show each tribe their extreme reality. It forces a more polarized political base, which means that if you want to get elected, you have to say something that's going to appeal to a base that's more divided. In the Facebook files, remember there was the Frances Haugen from Facebook. She put out these, Frances Haugen, she testified before Congress, went around to a bunch of nations, but she was a whistleblower, and she put out several Facebook files. And they showed that when Facebook changed the way that its algorithm worked in 2018, they changed it to something called meaningful social interactions. And I'm not going to get into the details, but they talked to political parties in Europe in that same year, in 2018. And Facebook went around and they talked to these political parties in Poland and Hungary and Taiwan and India. And these political parties said, before it had even been disclosed, these political parties said, hey, Facebook, we know you changed your ranking system. And Facebook simply said, everybody thinks that. Everybody has a conspiracy theory about how we change our ranking system. But these governments, they held firm. They said, no, not this time, Facebook. We know that you changed your algorithm because we used to be able to publish a white paper on our policies on, say, agriculture. And now when we publish these white papers, we get no response at all. We don't get any response. And we test that, and the only thing that allows us to get traffic and attention is when we say negative things about other political parties. These governments said, we know that's bad. We don't want to do that. We don't want to run our program, our campaign and our country by just saying negative things about the other party. We don't want to run campaigns by tearing down our fellow countrymen. However, when you change the algorithm, that's the only thing that these people can do to get attention. And what this does is this shows you how central data and algorithms are to everything in modern society. Look at it this way. If you are Tucker Carlson, or you're Rachel Maddow, or you're anybody who's a political personality, are they really saying things just for their TV audience? Or are they also trying to appeal to an algorithm? Are they trying to feed data into an algorithm? Really think about that. Because more and more of their attention is going to happen downstream in these little clips that get filtered around on the internet. So they also need to appeal to how the algorithm is rewarding saying negative things about other people. So what that does is it means you're going to elect more divisive people, more radical people. You're going to elect a more political-like representative class that's based on disagreeing with the other side. More concerned about disagreeing with the other side than about substantive policies for the country. This means that it throws a monkey wrench into the gears of democracy and means that democracy stops delivering results in a time where we have more crises than ever. Supply chain crises, potential inflation, and all these other things that need to be responded to. And instead of responding to them effectively, it's just division all the way down. This is how data and algorithms can lead to a dystopian future.